Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs, discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
All right, we are here, and I like this this prediction from Rocky. Show forecast spicy with a chance of Schadenfreude. We'll have to see what happens there. And Stephen Cooper has been a member for 13 months. He wants us to stay hydrated. We will. I've got my coffee. I'm ready to roll. We are back. I can't believe it. We've actually been able to do this multiple weeks in a row, and that's always a good sign. And joining us is Sean. Sean hasn't been here for a little bit. Wait, were you here last week, Sean?
I think I was here last week.
Okay, well,
I think so, or the week before.
I get confused, but it's good to have you. Phil is here and Nate is here. And we're going to start the topics out today with a follow-up. There was a couple follow-ups. This is a big one. Go ahead, Nate, if you wanted to cue that off. The Fani Follies.
Some breaking news just coming in this morning. The state Supreme Court has just issued its decision in the 2020 election interference case. They have just ruled that Fani Willis will remain disqualified from prosecuting the case. That disqualification stands. Let's get out to Ariana Manise.
All right. So the news is going to take a long time to tell you exactly what I'm about to tell you now. So this is a quick recitation of the facts. And the man who knows all this is not on this side. It's Phil. So if I say something if I say left, he says it's right. Phil is right. Don't believe me. So this is a quick recitation of the facts. First, Fani Willis was prosecuting Trump and the other 18 people as co-conspirators for election interference and so forth and so forth. One of the defendants, Michael Roman, said that they had a relation that put a motion in that there was a conflict of interest between Fani Willis and her boyfriend Nathan Wade. Essentially, what they laid out was a kickback scheme. The kickback scheme went where Nathan Wade would be paid by the city to prosecute Trump. He's being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in turn, he would pay Fani Willis through gifts, like elaborate, going to Napa Valley, going on cruises, going on all these elaborate gifts and all that type of stuff. So she was essentially paying him to prosecute Trump, and then getting those were the rewards she was getting back. The old kickback scheme. Then they bought that in the court. They were like, well, so she was saying that didn't happen. Nathan Wade said they had a relationship, but obviously the kickback scheme, and the way they got around the kickback scheme is that she said she paid him back. They said, are there any records for about her being paid back?
She paid him back with the cash that she likes to keep around her house that her daddy told her.
I was getting there, bro.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Her daddy, right. Timu Cornell West.
So when they asked for receipts about the paid, she said, like Eric said, they only take cash. So then they even went farther. Ashley Merchant asked, she said, well, hold on, your income is from the state, right? Yes. The state pays you in as a check, right? Direct deposit. Yes. So there should be a record of you taking cash out of the bank account because you're only getting cash and then moving that. She says that she has some secret cash and she's been keeping 6 months worth of cash, but her father, and because of her father, like Eric said, told her to keep cash. But anyway, there's no records of her even being paid back. So initially the trial court had to make a decision. So the trial court did what most of us lawyers call split the baby. Mm-hmm. He said that, okay, obviously this is first he made the distinction that there may be some perjury going on here, but besides that, he said Fani could stay, but she had to fire her boyfriend, or she can leave and her and her old office can be. So she chose to fire her boyfriend and stay on the case. The defendants then appealed that and said that's BS. She should be removed because it's an appearance of impropriety. She was getting.
Hang on, Nate. Not to interrupt you, but I mean, just not all the defendants, and I want to talk about that when you're done. So don't let me forget that point. Not all the defendants appealed, but yeah, go ahead.
Not all. All right, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna ask you about that because I've written it down. All right, so not all the defendants appealed, but the appeals court then said, okay. The appeals court agreed with the defendants that appealed and said Fani must go because her office was conflicted out. And then Fani then appealed that to the Georgia Supreme Court saying, hey, I would want the original ruling that let me stay on but fire my boyfriend. I want that. And then the Georgia Supreme Court in a 4-3 decision said they're not even going to hear the case. Essentially, what that means is that the lower court ruling, the appeals court ruling, stands, and Fani is off the case. Now, let me kick it to Phil, because Phil can fill in any of the details that I've missed. But that was just my brief overview.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. So there's my tweet that I put up a day or so ago. That I highlighted that sentence because those handful of words in that one sentence, that's how the Fani Willis fiasco and saga just died. Just that plainly and simply. So what this was a petition for a writ of certiorari. Our listeners and viewers probably, if you don't know what that means, it's a discretionary appeal. It means that the Court of Appeals made a ruling adverse to Willis. She wanted to ask the Supreme Court to let her appeal. It's discretionary. They didn't have to let her, and they didn't. And so by virtue of them denying her petition for a writ of certiorari, the Court of Appeals ruling is the final word on it. There's no appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is entirely a state issue. And so the state of the law on the disqualifications of prosecutors, well, let's just face it, this particular circumstance has obviously never happened and never will happen again, I'm sure. So once in a, not even once in a lifetime, once in ever type of situation, you just won't see this again. So understandably, we don't have case law that fits this perfectly. So there are people who say that the Court of Appeals in their ruling went too far, and there's some that say no, it was perfectly fine. And anyway, the Supreme Court essentially, they didn't touch the merits of the appeal. They just said, well, this is not really the kind of thing that's likely to happen again. So there's no need for us to jump in to clarify the state of the law. So that's how it ended for Willis. And I got to tell you, Ashley Merchant, she and her husband, John, are some of my closest lawyer friends, and they're great lawyers. Ashley is sort of the public face of this, but her husband, John, his work on it, it was also exemplary. And so they were the team. They represented Michael Roman, who was just one of the defendants. And I think that they wanted to bring this motion earlier in the case, but a couple of years ago, the trial judge gave them a deadline. They said, look, all motions got to be filed by such and such date. If I forget when, it was the spring of every year that was. And so at the very last minute, on the very last day, she went ahead and filed this thing. And I think she'd been working on obviously for some time, because she had the receipts. She brought her evidence with her. So it basically just blew this whole thing out of the water. But surprisingly, not all of the defendants joined in the motion, and some of the defendants, as you know, have entered guilty pleas and are on probation or were, and all this kind of stuff. The defendants who did not join the motion, and I don't know which ones they were off the top of my head, but you can see on that tweet Eric posted just a few minutes ago, those are the ones that are named on that are the ones that joined the appeal. So it's certainly not all of them, but you got some big names, obviously Trump, but Michael Roman, the top one, that's Ashley's client. So it was just that handful. But the thing about a rising tide is it raises all boats. So even if someone did not join in that appeal, they benefit from it. So
what if they pled out already?
Yeah, well, they're always say they may be screwed. A card laid is a card played, is what we say.
Yep.
And I think some of them have tried to actually get their pleas withdrawn, and they've not had any success. So I think some of them just maybe SOL, but this is the end of it for Willis. It's not the end of the indictment. The indictment is still active. It's pending in the Superior Court of Fulton County. But here's the thing. It's got no prosecutor. All right. So somebody asked me what happens next. Okay. What happens next is the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, which is a state agency. It's tiny. It's really small, but they are an agency that is designed to give support to prosecutors statewide. And they also have their own authority to prosecute cases whenever there's a conflict. Let's just say your local DA's office. Well, let's just say one of their investigators or whoever gets a DUI. Well, obviously they can't prosecute it. They're going to have to voluntarily recuse themselves. So prosecutors recusing themselves is not uncommon. It happens routinely in certain instances. And so the prosecuting attorney's counsel will appoint somebody else to come in and take over that. But in this case, they're not going to probably find any other DA in the state of Georgia that wants to take up this a pile of garbage, because they'd have to go in and fix all the work or fix everything that she screwed up and presumably start over. And it costs a ton of money. Prosecutors' offices are stretched thin. They don't have the kind of money to spend on this kind of thing, certainly on somebody else's case in another jurisdiction. So I don't think they're going to find any DA willing to take it. And if that's the case, then the question becomes, is the prosecuting attorney's counsel, are they going to step in and prosecute the case? And I predict that what's going to happen, and I may eat these words. I'll come here on this show and I will eat my phone on your show, Eric. But I think that the prosecuting attorney's counsel is probably going to, they're going to be the prosecutor for about 10 seconds, only long enough to file a dismissal of the indictment. I think that's how it's going to end.
And what Phil, in addition to what Phil referenced, we also need to remember that Trump v. U.S., which determined presidential immunity, came out after this case was started. So if someone were to pick this case, were to decide they really hate Trump and they want to go after him specifically, they would have to completely dissect the charges and the indictment as it was created and try to figure out exactly what parts need to get carved out in the wake of that Supreme Court decision, and what, if anything, of the case is still left at that point. So it's not like this is even a normal case, which might be, for one reason or another, be kicked away from a prosecutor. This is a case which already was rife with all sorts of issues from its commencement, and then got worse because of a Supreme Court decision of Trump v. U.S., which really carved out a lot of the allegations which are raised in the initial indictment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. The trial judge in this case ruled on a lot of motions, including the one to disqualify Willis. But at the time they were having these motion hearings, the U.S. Supreme Court had not yet revealed to us that there is something known as presidential immunity. So how that would factor into it would be something that would have to be litigated. And it's another great reason that if I'm the elected DA in any neighboring jurisdiction or anywhere in the state of Georgia, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. It's just too much, too big. I got my own problems, my murders, my robberies, my assaults. I got real crime. I need to, my voters who elected me in whatever hypothetical county or jurisdiction I'm in, they want me to handle my business here at home, not Fani Willis's stuff.
Mm-hmm. But I would like to ask though, what about if, for instance, in this case, do you guys think a prosecutor who, like Fani Willis, wants to make a bones for herself? Do you think that they would be willing to take this particular case? Like, are there any other Democrats there who would be like, hey, this case will make me a national Democrat?
Well, I've been asked that question before, and there are maybe 2 or 3 that I think are cut from the same cloth as her potentially, and might be willing to take it on if they had the resources to do so. And I don't think they do. So I think that there might be a couple that would theoretically be interested, that might want to sort of make that name for themselves. But here's the thing, they may wind up sullied just like she is in the end. So there's always that risk. These folks are all politicians. They're elected, and they're not all in Fulton County that's overwhelmingly far left in terms of their electorate.
And the other thing, Phil, I know I watched an interview Ashley did. Everything she found was just by filing Freedom of Information stuff. Well, so she wasn't getting like leaks. She just send in a couple of request forms, and she was able to start digging. So yeah, a lot of these politicians, I'm sure, if they're just like Fani, they're gonna have their own skeletons,
Well,
and she's
Sean,
gonna find it pretty
how do you think you can do the math? How do you think Ashley knew what to ask for?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
who's just going to send out an open record request? Say, hey, tell me about the prosecutor's boyfriend. So I mean, she had to know something in order to know where to aim her arrows, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it just shows how unpopular.
But I do want
to gets the vote. She's not as popular as everybody thinks.
I do want to ask about the ethics of how all this came out, because it was essentially Nathan Wade's defense attorney who spilled the beans on this, right, to Ashley. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to make any disparaging things about Ashley. I'm really talking about his lawyers telling Ashley all this stuff. Like, is he going to be fined or anything like that, or is he still practicing? Because he was the one that essentially ratted out his client, right?
Well, so if you look at this yes, he's still practicing. If you look at it on a granular level, I'm not so sure that there was any privileged things that were shared. I think it's to the extent that he had represented Wade, it was on a very limited basis. Like they were in the same. I don't know if you call it a firm. I don't know if they were technically like law partners or whatever, but they were essentially practicing together. And somebody needed to file Wade's divorce, and I think his representation was pretty limited, and so the things that may have been disclosed, because remember the whole thing. I remember that. I went and talked about this with Megyn Kelly the day that it broke. I think I was in Hawaii at the time. It was 6 a.m. and local time, and I was having to do this live show about these text messages that were released between Ashley and the lawyer, and I think that it all referenced things that were subsequent to that representation. So I don't think he did anything unethical with speaking to her. That's just my opinion.
All right. I'll go ahead and jump. I think the case there we are caught up on. We've got another follow-up case before we start rolling into Jimmy Kimmel and free speech and a lot of good stuff here. But we talked about this about 3 weeks ago. Finally, this morning, Raja Jackson was arrested. Now, those who don't remember who Raja Jackson is the guy who essentially beat somebody badly in the ring and claimed that somebody told him to get receipts. So apparently the state is collecting receipts now, and he was charged with, I believe, battery.
Yeah, battery with what's it called?
Serious bodily injury.
Yeah, battery. Serious.
That's what they call it. Like, I think in California it's like SBI is the term.
There it is. Battery with serious bodily injury.
Mm-hmm. They didn't go for attempted because, oh my God, that video is terrifying.
I agree. I think it was just. I think there was mitigating factors in that he was told to do it, and then his concussion. Maybe they didn't go all the way up for the high charge, but it's definitely a serious battery.
The delay here is obviously because of black privilege.
I know people are worried about the delay.
You know what, Joe? I'll push back on that because I think people said Hollywood privilege, or this is L.A. and that's entertainment world, and a lot of people pointed out that no, because that's what pays the bills. It's more the entertainment privilege.
Well, I don't even know if it was that. If you're going to prosecute this, take your time, make sure you have it right. I bet they have, they consulted with people who are in the wrestling business. Like, is this something could we use it? Getting an expert witness opinion beforehand. There's no rush. It happened 3 weeks ago. The statute of limitations isn't running out tomorrow. No. Take your time, make sure you have a case, make sure you've interviewed everybody, and then charge them. There's no reason to grab them, charge them, start the clock, and then scramble to build a case.
Okay.
Take your time and build it properly.
You push back on me. You push back on me. I was doing a little bit of a Woody Woodpecker thing, but I'll push back on you for a moment. Let's imagine that the celebrity here was white and the victim was black. Do you think it would have taken them 3 weeks to charge?
Depends on the celebrity.
Can I lead with an actual case that's very similar? In 2023, do you guys remember the hockey case with what was his name? Adam Johnson was the victim. Now, there wasn't the same race factors. I don't think that the aggressor in that case was black. However, this was similar in the fact that these were both sports cases, both violent in nature, both have some leniency for some level of battery that's allowed by the sport. And in that case, it took 3 weeks to charge. And in that case, Adam Johnson actually died after being struck by his opponent. So that case took significantly, a longer time than people were expecting as well, because it was outside of the bounds of what was permissible by hockey. I think here the prosecutors are looking at, okay, well, what are the rules of the game? What stepped outside of what is permissible by the rules of the game? What would have been expected and what was agreed to? And where's the line drawn between what is permissible, what's legal, and what is criminal? And so I think that's why the charging documents took so long, is I think they went back, reviewed the evidence, reviewed the rules of the game, reviewed what the referee was doing, where the referee should have stepped in, how long it took for the referee to step in, and when he should have backed off. I think that has more to do with it. That was in the UK. However, I think that has more to do with it in terms of legal analysis and bringing good charges than race does.
I understand what you're saying, and perhaps it does take a little added reflection, but that feels like something that research would take like 3 days, not 3 weeks, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think it's the government. And I think unless I would agree with you, Good Logic, that if it was a white aggressor, they would be more prompted to. I think that the public eye would be on them more, the media eye would be on them more. So it would be a little fire under their bums, but I still think I would expect at least a week and a half to 2 weeks.
I'm just saying they would have been marching in the streets, and there would have been the attack would have been labeled something that was clearly motivated by racism, and you would have had the classic Ben Crumps of the world, the Al Sharptons of the world, talking about how you have, this is call back to historic white owner beating on a black slave, and that's what we just saw here. And now you can say that perhaps, I think what's a fair assessment is that, and perhaps maybe people would say that this is appropriate, is that there's a heightened justice if in fact it's a white aggressor on a black person in such a public way, which expedites the normal process from what it should be, and that what we're looking at here is more of a normal process type of thing, which is not heightened by a public pressure. And I think that's a fair way of looking at it. Not that it's a reverse racism against white people, but that there is an enhanced type of protection because of America's history, and that in an attempt to rectify American history. That's possible. I think that's a fair argument. I personally believe it's a fair argument. I'm curious what people are thinking.
Could we drop the term reverse? It's
fair enough. I agree.
It's racism, but I agree.
I was trying to underscore the distinction. I normally never would say that, but I was trying to underscore the distinction there. So.
I think
I agree with that. I think
as
sorry.
Oh no, as a lot of times people think prosecutor. So for those of you who don't know, I still do criminal case, and I just had a huge criminal case that I'm still working on now that involves the feds and all this other stuff. When you're a defense attorney and your client has money, things take longer. Anybody in the business know why? Because when you have money, your lawyers can do a lot more stuff. Like the police will call. They called my client, for instance, and my client first he calls me. And he never talks to the police. I talk to the police. Or she never talks to the police. I talk to the police. And that makes that process a lot harder. Now, I'm assuming Rajah Jackson has money. His father has millions of dollars. And I believe when this happened, the first thing they did was lawyer up and you talk to the lawyers versus me. Like in a simple assault like this, generally you just talk to the person. You hit the guy, yeah, and you bring him in and that's it. It's done. But when you have somebody with some money and they left the scene and now you know other people involved, it does take longer. Now, I do think Joe is correct where I think the process would have been sped up a little faster if the verses were reversed. But Danny's point is correct because Danny's in the business where someone who has this affluence and money, the process just for them is longer. Like for instance, the O.J. Simpson trial, the longest trial ever, and that was because he had money and he would be able to challenge all these points with somebody with lesser means couldn't.
Just as a note, Matt Pettigrave was the aggressor in that case with the hockey case, and he is Black. So there's that. And I do agree that I do agree.
You just said there's a Black hockey player?
Really? Yes,
there are a couple.
Yes, and he basically drop kicked this guy, like came full speed at him, blades all the way out, and cut his throat and killed him on the ice. It was very obvious to me, but I don't think criminal charges were even filed in that case. You want to talk about some racism?
That was also in Britain too.
Yeah,
and that was in Britain. And so, I agree with you, Joe, that there would have been public condemnation. There would have been the entire league coming out. They would have dismissed him. He would have been blackballed from the industry. He would have never been able to fight again. That's what would have happened if the roles were reversed.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to agree with that.
One thing, though, I find it interesting that his father actually says that he should be. If I don't know if you scroll down to the on the TMZ article,
Rampage.
Yeah,
I think wanted him.
You could play that clip, and he'll say he should do some time for what happened.
Fuck all that, Roger. I think that he should do a little time, do a little community service. And go to anger management class, see some therapy.
Wow,
that goes like some people said it was attempted murder and things like that.
When
That's not a little time.
It wasn't attempted murder because he wasn't trying to kill that guy.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because that's my son. I know my son.
My baby didn't do nothing.
Roger wasn't trying to kill nobody. He wasn't trying to kill that. He wasn't trying to kill that guy. Roger probably didn't even know how bad he hurt that guy. He wasn't.
Which is kind of
bonkers
the
big story is that Jimmy Kimmel was suspended by ABC after pressure from the FCC.
So,
okay, who's playing in the background?
That was you. That's you.
That was you. That was on the.
You wouldn't hear us. I have stuff playing. I'm right now. I'm listening to the Jackson.
Feels like you can't believe what I'm watching.
You can't hear it.
All right,
like,
whatever. I'm just like
the massage.
I do not appreciate rogue tabs.
I think Rampage's comments there about he wanted him to do time. Yeah, it's like if he punched a guy in a bar, go do like a night in jail, or go pick up some trash. He's not wanting his son to go do 90 days in jail, a month in jail, a year in jail. He's not wanting that. He's just like, oh yeah, he'll like naughty, go spend the weekend. Like that's all he's thinking for a punishment. He's not thinking a real punishment.
Yeah, like scared straight or something.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, he's not thinking he wants his son to go make license plates.
Yeah, people think attempted murder is the problem is that with attempted murder here, if you lose, you could lose everything. So I think the charging decisions here are very important. Yeah. Where you say, well, I know I have battery, in spades. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody's going to disagree with the battery.
Yeah. But
you can't do lesser included, so Nate, couldn't you charge them with?
Yeah, but there's a risk because
and then they can drop the higher charges.
But there's always a risk because the risk if you go for the murder, that if they acquit for murder, they'll acquit for everything else. That's why, because they'll think you're going after them as an overcharge and so forth. So that's why I said sometimes you have to be very cautious.
Aggravated assault,
aggravated assault would be something I think is a no-brainer. You know.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that jurisdiction, but where I live, aggravated assault carries 20 years.
Yeah, and since he's also an MMA fighter, that also it's essentially like he beat the guy up with a loaded weapon, which also
that's why I think it's funny that he's like, oh, I don't think he even knew. It's like, then he's the weakest hitter in the world. I mean, that's some bullshit there, Rampage.
Yeah, he 100% know what he was doing.
Yeah, trained, licensed MMA fighter. If he didn't know, then he's in the wrong business.
He's in the wrong business.
He's a dad, so that's what a dad is going to do. I mean, I can appreciate that. We would all try to look at it from the most beneficial way possible to our own son. So,
but Joe, I'll ask you, that interview I think hurts his son because now he can't be used as a character witness because when he comes up to the stand, what's your first question to him?
Didn't you say
Yeah. You know, what's your first question? It's done. He's now he can't be a part of anything. He just hurt his.
It's interesting because, as I recall from this case, his father's goading perhaps was a motivating factor. So even if he's not called as a character witness, you can see him being involved as a fact witness. In which case, that question arguably could come up. Now,
what do you
if
think
that question
are on a plea out?
Yeah,
I mean, a
very
fine,
high,
community
very high.
service, and
he's
very high.
anger management tour.
Yeah,
very high. Yeah,
I just don't see this going to trial. I don't think it would fare very well. And Nate Hockman's not a joke. You know, they did change up the DA in LA. Hockman is.
They have a real
actually
DA
going
now.
after people. Yeah. I mean, he served under Bush in the DOJ.
But our job, Eric, is to really think about it in the context of if it doesn't plead out. If every case pleads out, in that case, you don't need attorneys to come in and assess what happens at trial, right? So, I mean, I agree with you. It's very, very likely that this will.
Well, I mean, that's a legitimate question, though. Because
but I am curious. Since we are on this topic, I am curious to hear from the rest of this panel. Seeing how he was goaded by his father, do you think that's something that the prosecution would be raising and try to bring him in as a fact witness, or the defense would be bringing him in there to try and excuse his conduct and saying that, like, you know, that he sort. Which of them do you think? I'm really looking to the criminal. To you guys, I'm not a defense attorney in criminal law, and that's why I'm curious. Which of them do you think strategically would be more likely to call him as a fact witness? The prosecution, the state, or the defense?
Well, I don't think you, as a fact witness, I think that'll be hard, because essentially you'll be saying, what did you tell your son in these moments? And it seems like you'll be trying to prove motive in that case. So I don't know if you can get him in as a fact witness in per se. Unless you're really trying to say that he motivated his son to do that. So I don't know. I don't know what the other attorneys are going to think, but I just think it's a hard sell on the relevance issue, and it may be a hard sell on like a 403 challenge. But you know, what was
his state of mind, given what his dad said to him? You don't think that would be a relevant?
Well, no, you specifically said a fact witness, and I'm saying there's no
to
establish.
Yes,
no,
but I'm saying it is a fact. His state of mind is a fact to help establish, to help the jury as a probative matter for the jury to better assess his state of mind. They should be hearing what his father was saying to him moments before he jumped into the ring and started pummeling this guy. I would think that would be a relevant fact witness.
I think that would be a lot more mitigation at a sentencing than anything, because it's not a situation where explaining that alleviates his mental state in regards to intentionally causing serious bodily harm. Like, you're presumed to know, a reasonable person's presumed to know that their actions will lead to a certain outcome. So the fact he just sits there and just pounds this guy's face in oblivion, the average person would understand you're going to hurt this guy. So for him to say, oh, my dad got my fifis hurt and I had to show my daddy I'm a man because he called me a little boy, the jury's not really going to care about that. I don't think it's really going to get you anywhere. And if I'm the prosecutor, I don't want to bring that up anyway, because now we're dragging in Rampage as like a possible guy who's really to blame for all this. And he's not being charged. I don't want that. And if I'm the defense, I'm not sure that you want to go in there and say, look, I'm this MMA fighter and I can't control myself, because if that's what then you sound like a complete lunatic and the jury's really going to hate you.
Interesting.
That would be my thoughts.
That's the type of assessment I was looking to hear.
I don't know if Phil has a different thought on that or not, but
not really. No, you know, this is I've not been following this case all that closely. I've just been soaking this in, listening to you guys. It's fascinating. I'm going to have to dig into it.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and shift to one of the main topics. Phil sent me a little video clip. I guess we could use.
Well, actually, we should get Danny's position on it as a parent. If your kid right now ran up on stage and beat up a wrestler, would you be like Rampage too? Like, oh, he didn't mean it. He just got upset.
I'm a mother. I'm not just a parent. I'm a mother. And so the answer is probably, as an attorney, no. I keep my mouth shut and I'd be like, you couldn't pay me enough to get on a freaking show. Shut up, you know? But as a mother in his position, assuming that I know nothing about the law, yeah, I would do that. I would say, hey, look, maybe he needs a little slap on the wrist, maybe a slap on the bum, but it's maybe some community service, some classes, it's something that my son has struggled with. I might say something like that. But as an attorney, God, no, I would never say that. And I agree with you, Sean. I think that it's mitigating, actually, that dad was down there saying, go get him, go tear him up, go kill him, because that's what dads do, one. And two, that's what a mom would do. If my son's a UFC wrestler or whatever, I want him to kill it. I want him to win. I want, and that's what you're shouting from the stands. That's what normal parents do anyway. Right. And I don't know, maybe I'm an aggressive parent already, but I'm in the stand saying, go win, and second place isn't winning. So I think that actually mitigates.
All right. Well, when we're talking about parents and what they do, that's a perfect segue. This is apparently the sheriff of Washington County. It's in Utah, where Tyler Robinson was taken into custody.
What did he ask for? Can I ask? He basically for a peaceful, gentle, comfortable transition for him to come out. Again, he knew he was going to get caught. He didn't want a big SWAT team hitting his parents' house or his apartment. He was truly fearful of being shot by law enforcement. So that the conditions were as relaxed and comfortable and almost to the point of, inviting. And if at the end of the day, we accomplish him surrendering peacefully on his own, I'm gonna make some concessions to make that happen. What did he ask for?
After you. No, after you. After you.
That is the right move.
That is the right move.
The idea that he was afraid of getting shot. I mean, that's the irony of that is just breathtaking. I mean, Jesus. Mm-hmm. I can't, as an ex-cop, I can't imagine, this guy walking into my sheriff's office and us not pouncing immediately and handcuffing him and dragging his ass off to a cell. That's
because you're not from Utah, sir. You're not from Utah.
That heckin' Mormon kindness.
Everything here. That is why extremism has been bred here. That's why it's exploding here. That's why you're seeing it finally on the news. I've been talking about it for a decade, well over a decade, that we have an extremism problem here. We have people who need to be, addressed here. We have a weirdness problem here.
Is that because you said because Utah is too nice? Is that what you're saying?
We're way too nice. No, this is the whole Governor Cox disagree better, campaign that he ran against my former professor with Professor Peterson. His whole thing was we need to disagree better. As a matter of fact, it's conservatives, even though we're the victim of the vast majority of political violence, especially in this state. We need to reach out, and we need to have a conciliatory hand, and we need to lower the rhetoric and the temperature. We need to shut up is basically what he was saying. Yeah. And especially in Washington County, they actually just had a case that was really similar that I covered, I think it was last year, of a transgender individual who he murdered his parents and tried to murder his brother. And he went out on the run, and the bolo said it was a she. And so everybody was looking for a woman for a guy who clearly was not passing as a woman. It was obvious it was a dude. And I still can't find out whether or not, and they're being held, he's being held in Purgatory prison. There's a city down in southern Utah called Purgatory. That's where our
okay.
And,
that's perfect.
And so he's being held in Purgatory, literally, but they won't say whether or not he's in the female or male side of the jail. And this guy is huge. Good and Lord. He actually lived just down the street from where Tyler Robinson grew up. So there's a lot of questions about what the hell was going on in that ward. Ward is the congregation, what we call a congregation in the Mormon church.
You also know Zen personally.
And I'm curious whether or not they knew each other. I knew Zen. Everybody who's involved in politics, especially Republicans, know Zen. Oh my gosh, the guy is a creep. He just followed people around and harassed you, and you just kind of politely ignored him and avoided him. And he seemed mostly harmless, and then turns out he's a PDF file. And anyway, there's just so much to this case that I had to absorb when it happened, where I went, yeah, I mean, duh. This is not a shock at all.
Danny, I have a question for you. So, because you're the perfect person to answer this, I don't know if the rest of you guys noticed this. If you watched the first appearance where Robinson appeared in his suicide vest and all that, by video, like it was a virtual hearing.
Can't say that. Can't use that word, but
right.
okay.
He caught himself. Yes, the weighted vest. Yes.
Weighted. All right. Anyway, so did you notice how the judge, everybody being so nice, the judge was like, "Thank you for being here, Mr. Robinson." Yep. And then at the end, he's like, he announces the next court date for whatever, I guess it's arraignment or whatever. And he's like, "And Mr. Robinson, we would invite you to be here then."
I know.
Like, you don't have any choice. You have to come.
Yeah.
Yes.
I assume that's what they tell everybody. That just seems very weird, though, when you're in jail.
I've never heard a judge talk to a defendant like that. I always hear judges say, "If you're not here on that court date, you're going to jail." That's how I hear it. In court.
Also,
welcome to Utah. Here. That's how our judges treat defendants here, but ironically, not how our commissioners treat parents here. So it's funny because defendants are very well treated in the state of Utah. I'll say that. Okay, they're how do I put this? Their butts are pampered. They're very well taken care of by our justice system. Okay, so for example, we spent almost no money on our victims fund, the state victims fund, and we spent like, what was it, $300 million on a jail upgrade. And the jail upgrade was to make nicer beds and to provide outgoing services from the jail and transitionary services. No security for victims, no payback for victims, no taxpayer dollars going to those types of things. It all goes to our defendants.
You guys don't have like a crime victims compensation fund that's on the state level?
We do, and it's notoriously underfunded. So, I mean, this is welcome to Utah. That's all I have to say. Welcome to Utah. It's so bad afterwards. I can't even begin to tell you. I can't even begin to explain how bad it is. That's why I ran for DA in 2022, because we had a DA that, wasn't paying a proper wage to his own employees and was ensuring, openly lobbying for defense attorneys and saying all of my budget needs to go over that way instead, which constitutionally, yes, we do need to cover our asses there and make sure that our defense attorneys are being paid. But shouldn't you be lobbying for your own employees? I mean, there's just so much there that's been an ongoing problem here in Utah, especially in Salt Lake County. I can guarantee you, if this case were brought in Salt Lake County, the guy would have been pled out already.
When this case goes to trial, is it going to be something is it going to be live streamed? And are we going to see the judge continue to speak to this guy this way?
That's a great question. And my answer to that is, in other high profile cases, Utah has held that we need to treat all cases equally. And so there's a likelihood that they might not live stream it because not all cases are live streamed. Now, the alternative to that, if the media sues, I think with a little bit of pushback, you can get the Utah Supreme Court to say, okay, we treat all cases equally. And because there's a live link, because there's a WebEx link to all cases, almost all cases now, then the media should be able to at least use our online WebEx link in order to live stream and allow people to attend just like they would any other case. So we'll see how that plays out. I hope that they live stream it. I don't know if they will, though, especially given that this is a death penalty case, and that the prosecutor has made it very clear that he is seeking the death penalty in this case, which good for Prosecutor Gray. But if you listen to the press conference with Prosecutor Gray, he stands up and he's talking about all the details in the case, and he's doing his press conference, and he sounds just like a Mormon bishop or like any other, Mormon ecclesiastical leader. It's so bizarre to hear. And he's very polite to the defendant, even though he's the lead prosecutor, he's the DA. It's just Utah culture.
Before you have to go take care of your baby, Danny, I have a question. So this protective order that the prosecution asked for in favor of Erica Kirk, I was assuming that was like a, nobody can contact Erica Kirk kind of protective order. Is that right?
That's what my assumption was when I heard that as well. And it makes sense. Here's the other thing about Utah. And I don't mean to I want to answer your questions and not like veer off. But in my experience with the Antifa chapters here in Utah, what they'll do is they'll have a fall guy. So they have a guy that is specifically okay with being arrested if all hell breaks loose. And so it doesn't surprise me that he turned himself in so graciously and politely to the police officers, right? Hi, Mr. Police Officer, please come collect me, because he's protecting his comrades. And that's not uncommon here. We saw similar things happen when Steven Crowder brought the Antifa group chapter of University of Utah, who were seeking to murder him at the Ben Shapiro talk when I was in law school. He brought that case forward to the FBI, said, here's all of our evidence. He had infiltrated the group. He had done, a lot of investigative journalism and had someone on the inside. They showed everything to the FBI, and the FBI went, okay. And by the way, the same Antifa chapter leader at the University of Utah was there on January 7th. Or was it January 6th? Whatever.
January 6th.
January 6th. He was there on January 6th. And he got a plea deal as well. I think he ended up paying like $5,000. At the end of the day, he ended up paying $5,000 and didn't get any jail time, even though we have him on camera right there where Ashley Babbitt is being shot at. So this goes all the way back. Like, all of this is connected to stuff that's been going on here for years. And it doesn't surprise me that the administration only provided 8 security officers at UVU, because what happened up at U of U is whenever we had a controversial speaker or a conservative speaker come to the campus, the school would try and silence us by saying, well, you need to pay a security deposit. Well, how much is a security deposit for security? Oh, it's $10,000.
Yeah. They learned that from
Berkeley. Where do I come up with that money as a local, student chapter? Now, I know that there were successful lawsuits against higher education in California for doing the same thing as a violation of free speech. But they did it when we were, student chapter presidents and club presidents. So I don't know why they would stop doing it now.
You think that there were definitely others that knew about it ahead of time and may have encouraged it?
Not even a doubt in my mind. And I bet that they all walk.
Wow.
I bet that they all walk.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is kind of hard to prove.
I would be shocked to see them not only investigated, but charged.
Wow. That's so horrible.
You don't think the FBI says they're tracking it all down, but that's
it's
the
bullshit.
feds.
They
That's
said
not
the same thing
state
about
agency.
January 6th, and they had how many arrests on January 6th?
Yeah, it was
people?
a different DOJ though, right?
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah,
DOJ.
it doesn't matter because
different
we have a
DOJ.
local FBI chapter. You guys, we have FBI Salt Lake. They're centered here. We have an FBI office here. Our regional office is here. And they've been very well aware of this for years. It doesn't matter who we have. Who do we have as the head of the DOJ? She's out there talking about hate speech and how we need to crack down on hate speech now. Who does that sound like? Does that sound like a conservative attorney who cares about free speech and preserving free speech? No, it sounds like someone who's going to use this to weaponize their goal of silencing people and making them all get along and be polite to one another, which is what Governor Cox would want, frankly. And this is what has disgusted me about the state.
I would be very.
Is it Utah specific, or are we talking? So you're talking about this? It sounds like an underground network, or maybe not so underground, but where this kind of thing might commonly be schemed about. Is this like a Utah thing, or you think it goes further than Utah?
Oh, it's definitely nationwide. Are you talking about Antifa and how they operate?
I wasn't sure how you wanted to label them, but sure, if you want to call them Antifa, yeah.
Antifa, they have organized chapters, so call them what they call themselves. They are Antifa.
You have a massive cell in organization in Atlanta. Those Cop City
they
people.
Have massive cells.
Yeah, you have one of the biggest.
Andy No.
Yeah.
Look at Andy No. They have had a death warrant out on Andy No since he started reporting way back when, because he's a gay conservative who's also Asian, and they just couldn't stand that about the guy. He just went out there, and he wasn't even conservative initially. He was super liberal. He just said, hey, I think these guys are kind of extreme. Maybe someone should take a look at them. Turns out there's an entire Antifa. Hold on, let me turn on my camera. There's now Antifa and Trantifa are two different things. So the transgender violence aspect of this, there is some level of organization. There's like a cult. Did you hear about this? There's a transgender elitist cult out of San Francisco. And they're connected to
murdered a
like
ton of
6 or
people.
7 different murders nationwide. And Andy No was the only one to cover that. But Antifa is very much operating openly here in the state of Utah, and they are protected and served by leadership in the state, whether that be university leadership, political leadership. The law applies very differently to them. Let's just say that. And the enforcement of the law is very differently applied to them, and they are not investigated. I'm sorry, they just aren't. I think
I'm curious, how long, given it would process normally take in Utah, should we expect that this case will be, if it doesn't plead out, that it'll be wrapped up within a year? Or it'll take more than that?
Yeah.
What would you expect?
I would expect about a year. I would expect about a year.
That's fast.
It is. It moves pretty quickly here.
Even
if
death
he
penalty?
exercises, even in death penalty, if he exercises his right to a speedy trial, it will be a year. If he doesn't, then we're looking a couple years out.
Yeah,
so
if I'm facing the death penalty, I don't want a speedy trial.
yeah.
Do you think they'll let him plead to life in prison? Because that, or do you think they got to get a death penalty conviction?
I would not be shocked. Okay, if a year from now, once things have cooled down, once we keep having cases of whataboutisms thrown around, and the DA feels a little more comfortable with doing it, I could see a plea out. But it would be a career killer for the DA if he were to do that. But he's an older gentleman, and frankly, he was just there to get rid of David Leavitt, who was horrible. That was the DA we had before. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he pleads him out. Utah is it's interesting. The people of Utah, the voters of Utah, I would say more than 50% are very much in favor of the death penalty and love the death penalty. But our DAs, our attorneys, our justice system is not.
Stealth jurors come to mind for that case too.
Yep.
Let me bring up, since we're talking about the First Amendment, and here are the comments that Pam Bondi and some others have made that have gotten people upset. So let's play the comments.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
No.
And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Nope.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. There's free speech, and then
now it's looping. All right, so that was her comments, and then here are Trump's comments on, I think, her comments, right?
Charlie said, that there was no such thing as hate speech. He obviously, no one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been Charlie's.
So he's saying he might have not said that now. So
yeah, he might not still think that now. It's like it was a pretty cold remark in a way. It wasn't the most elegant Trumpism.
But really, it's about Bondi. So the question is, do we agree with Bondi's position? And just so everybody understands what the current law is, so we can all just understand where the law is on this. This is a case from the what is it called? Well, it's Stokey. It's the Stokey case. Here are the facts of Stokey, so we can all understand. Skokie.
Yes.
Skokie,
Illinois.
Frank Collin was the head of the National Socialist Party of America, better known as the American Nazi Party. When Collin was temporarily blocked from leading party demonstrations in his Chicago neighborhood, he targeted the village of Skokie just outside Chicago for his next Nazi march. In Village of Skokie versus National Socialist Party of America, Collin resisted Skokie's efforts to keep him out. Skokie's population of around 70,000 was more than half Jewish. Between 5,000 and 7,000 concentration camp survivors lived there. Collin notified Skokie officials that the party would hold a peaceful public assembly in front of the village hall to protest the village's requirement that the party obtain insurance before demonstrating in the village's public parks.
Now, one thing they don't mention here is the insurance they told them they had to get were $350,000 of insurance.
It sounds
Essentially,
like the same playbook as the university, so deja
yes.
vu.
Yeah.
So then what they decided to do is protest the requirement for the insurance. So that's how the case moved forward.
The demonstration would last 20 to 30 minutes and consist of 30 to 50 demonstrators marching back and forth. The demonstrators would wear German Nazi stormtrooper uniforms, including a swastika armband. They were to carry a banner displaying a swastika and signs with messages like "Free Speech for the White Man." Skokie sued the party in state court, seeking to enjoin party.
The state court enjoined them, and then eventually went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court made the famous ruling that hate speech is free speech. And I think, to be fair to Pam Bondi, she may have been confusing hate crimes with hate speech, but that's me being generous.
Right, or call to action, because the call to action is not speech.
But just so everybody understands, the Supreme Court has made it very clear: hate speech is free speech, is protected, and it's the reason why we have the First Amendment. So go ahead, guys. Sorry about that.
I've always had a problem with hate. I've always felt like you don't need hate crimes legislation, because like murder is a murder is a murder. And in my state, regardless of what your motivation is, if you commit a murder, it's an automatic life sentence. So I don't, I get it, but when it comes to deciding on what hate speech is, who's the arbiter of that? Who gets to decide what is and is? I guess it's like whichever party's in power gets to decide what hate speech is. And that's why the Supreme Court had to rule the way that it did in that Skokie case, because, you've got to, in our society, we've got to tolerate even speech that we find offensive, because it's free speech for everybody or free speech for nobody, because then you get people, because when you get people in office saying we're going to ban this kind of speech or that kind of speech because we label it as hate speech or whatever, then it just defeats the entire First Amendment. You just can't have a First Amendment if you have prosecutors like Bondi coming out saying, okay, we're going to shut down this kind of speech or that kind of speech.
The Nazis in that case were represented by Jewish counsel.
Yes.
And that was famously
one, I think.
David Goldberger, I think, was the lead counsel there. I think Dershowitz was involved as well. That's back in the 80s, when there actually was such a concept as people being liberal, and liberalism made sense as opposed to switching over into leftism. But when the
ACLU would have supported them.
Yeah, that was very much the right decision, and it's one that it's kind of shocking that Pam Bondi would make that comment that she made. I don't think she was talking about hate crimes. I don't know what the heck she's even talking about there. I thought her speech there was hate speech. What she said there, I found to be hate speech, because I don't know how it is. She has a freedom to say it, but I wouldn't want her prosecuted for it, because that's a terrible thing to even start spreading, as Phil aptly pointed out. You never know, the next party in charge is going to be changing all the rules, and if you try getting all excited, and this touches into the whole Jimmy Kimmel story as well, if you get all excited about an onerous government going after your enemies when you're in power, that wheel spins very, very quickly. We saw it. Who hasn't seen that over the last six years? You go from Trump to Biden to Trump, and now we saw how terrible it was if you're sitting there on the right under Biden. So
are we jumping into Jimmy Kimmel then?
Well, we are, but I have to say that I'm so charmed by seeing the left embracing the First Amendment. Isn't it wonderful that they found the Constitution now? They love free speech. It's wonderful.
You know why? Together. It's because they tried to create a parallel economy and a parallel platform, and look what happened. That's it. So when conservatives go and do it, it plays out well, right? It works out. We have Rumble. Rumble took off after the leftists started doing what they did. We had Subscribestar that started to take off over Patreon.
But then there was Parler. That didn't go so well.
Parler, that kind of.
That was also clamping down free speech with Parler, right?
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah. So you know what? I just screw them, screw the left. I'm over it. I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander, politically and culturally. Now, when you get into legal speak, that's a different situation, right? The reason I'm okay with the Jimmy Kimmel bit is because financially they could not keep Kimmel alive. And Disney could have fought it. ABC could have fought it. They didn't want to because they wanted to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. They had an interest in getting rid of him too.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's saying, "Oh, this is a clear-cut case of censorship," okay, yeah. I mean, politically speaking, it's a good PR move for Disney to take this approach and say, "Oh yeah, the
because they got covered now.
FCC is
They've got covered.
Yep. And that's all it is. They're getting cover to do exactly what they wanted to do anyway. Screw Kimmel. He lied. He created a liability for his company by lying and saying, "Oh, they're trying to say that this guy is just like that, or that this guy who's just like them is something else." Okay, that's a lie. That's an obvious lie that's unsupported by the truth, and it's malicious.
Let's play the clip.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
There's a couple of things I want to point out about this.
Yeah.
First and foremost,
Hold on, I'll stop, and I'm gonna go back to the screen. Go ahead, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. First and foremost, the thing he got in trouble for is what he said about two elements to it, that he lied about the fact that this was, obviously one of theirs, and also that he implied that all their grieving is purely for scoring political points, because frankly, all he was doing was telling on himself rather than actually, accurately reflecting how MAGA is feeling about what happened to Charlie Kirk, and that this is some opportunity to score political points rather than genuine outrage. But the other thing is that is interesting, if you actually break down what he said there in his monologue, the entire point he says, those first 13 seconds, when he's attacking MAGA and saying this is obviously someone who's one of theirs, he then shifts over into, and the White House is flying flags at half-staff, which is very controversial. And that's the real setup of the joke. There was no reason to even throw out the first part there, other than he just had an agenda. This was not an attempt at comedy when he was saying that. He had an agenda. He wanted to shoehorn that into his monologue, and he felt like that was a moment that he could shoehorn it in. But there was no joke about that part, which he's being, which people found to be so offensive, which only shows just how twisted his whole perspective is, that he had to get it in. It wasn't setting up a joke. I have to say this. Now that doesn't really touch on whether or not he has a right to say it under free speech, which, it doesn't really touch on that issue, but it does reveal just how twisted his perspective is. But we should talk about the whole free speech element.
We'll talk about the free speech element, but let's say if a Republican, because let's say, for instance, the Democrat that was shot by the guy who was a registered Republican, voted for Trump and all that stuff. So if, let's say if it happened in reverse, where someone said, well, that guy was a Democrat, even though all the evidence shows that he was a Republican, would you also feel that that guy should lose his job too, for that statement, even though it's a lie?
Are you talking about the government, or are you talking about from?
I'm talking about let's say Jimmy Kimmel, the same thing, but now it's reverse. He did it in reverse. He was a Republican, but he did it with a Democrat. But the Democrats who got shot in Minnesota, he says that, hey, the shooter was one of theirs. He was a Democrat, a left-wing radical. Would we be okay with that person being fired?
Yeah, I would, Nate, because
if they didn't apologize.
Look,
they didn't
correct the record.
I think he was a Democrat.
They're entitled to protect their brand.
No, he was not. You see, Joe, you should be fired.
It's a business thing. They're entitled to protect their brand.
All right, all right, cool.
He was supposedly had ties to Tim Walz. I mean,
he was appointed to a job by the governor. A lot of people get appointed to jobs that are cross-party. Not every single person appointed to a job is automatically in the same party as the governor. But if you look at his entire MO, who he voted for, he's extremely pro-life. So really, that killer, his number one issue was very, very pro-life was his big issue, and he was going after people who were pro-choice. That was kind of his selection criteria in doing it. So,
but what Nate just did here is exactly what the left has been trying to do, which is to try and compare the assassination of Charlie Kirk to Elizabeth Hortman, which is the most disingenuous claim in the world. And the reason it's so disingenuous is because you cannot compare someone who on a national level is completely unknown, some private person who has a personal issue with them now comes after them, and now that individual becomes famous through their death. Right? No one ever heard of Elizabeth Hortman. I mean, aside from the 12 people who voted for her in Minnesota, no one ever heard of her, certainly on a national scale. None of these media pundits who are all talking about her had heard about her. She literally became famous through her death, as opposed to Charlie Kirk, who became famous, and that his fame was the cause of his death. That was his fame was the cause of his death.
I think that measuring fame on a stick gets really uncomfortable, Joe. I got to tell you, like, just think about it for a second. What you said, I'm sure you don't mean it when you're like, "Hey, her getting killed actually made her famous." So she was the speaker of the House, if I recall. She was very high up in she was a politician. She had political beliefs. She was killed for her political beliefs.
What Joe just said was disgusting. Let's just be clear. She was the leader of the House.
Wow.
Yeah. What you said was just disgusting. No, you're minimizing her death because she wasn't that was pretty disgusting, Joe.
She's not known at a national level.
That was pretty disgusting, Joe.
It's a ridiculous. You know what? I'm sorry.
You're saying they don't have because you're saying they're not because and not everybody knew.
What I am saying is when you're talking about the impact this has on the country, when you talk about the impact that people are going to have when they hear about a story, when you talk about him making a joke like that and being completely insensitive to the feelings of his audience or people who are going to hear that he said this thing, and you want to compare the impact he's having there to the impact as far as like, why aren't people rising up for Elizabeth Hortman? The reason people aren't rising up for Elizabeth Hortman, I'm not saying that someone who's famous has more value. I'm talking as far as how the public will react to a particular situation. You want to sit there living in la la land, pretending that the public is all of a sudden just going to become concerned about someone they never heard of before because they were assassinated. I think that you're living in a crazy place. I don't think that there's any logic to that at all. As opposed to someone who's killed because of the way they attain their fame and has a lot of fans behind that is something that is going to garner a great deal more attention. If you don't believe that, I'm sorry. I don't think you're living in reality.
Can I respond to all of that?
Go ahead.
The reason why I think it's ridiculous is because she was a lawmaker in Minnesota. She was running one of the chambers of that state. Mm-hmm. She was killed because of what she was doing, because of who she was. And identically, Charlie Kirk has political values. He was killed for political violence. That's what makes it. It's funny because Joe, I'm not going to let you cut me off. You're going to let me finish speaking because I let you finish speaking. So let's be adults here. So what I'm saying is that yes, Charlie Kirk may have been better on the right, and the president, when he comes out and says, "Hey, this is my guy," that did put him to a particular place. But his life was no more valuable than her life. He was killed for his political beliefs. She was killed for the political beliefs. So now this makes no. Because she was killed for her political beliefs, and she wasn't. Again. I let you guys speak. I'm just asking for you guys to respect my opinion when I let you guys just spew what you said.
You're
mischaracterizing it. I don't care if I'm mischaracterizing it. I don't care if I'm mischaracterizing it. You will have your time to speak. You will have your time to speak after I finish speaking. Matter of fact, that's all I'm asking. Because I let Joe speak. I let him. I disagreed with a lot of stuff we said. I'm trying to respond. Please, just let me finish responding. So just so everybody is clear, political violence is wrong, left or right. And if someone wants to say they can kill these Democrats because they weren't famous enough, and that's okay, and but the Republican was, and we should feel differently about it, I disagree. I think we should feel the same way. Political violence is unacceptable, no matter if you kill the person who's the dog.
Okay. No, I'm not letting you go further. And the reason I'm not letting you go further is because the implication of what you're saying is defaming me right now. You are defaming me right now. You are defaming me with this misrepresentation you're making right now. I'm not allowing that to continue because what your position is implying that I'm saying that Charlie Kirk has more value. His life has more value.
That's how it came to be.
And that's how you took it, then that was an absurd way. No, that was an absurd way of taking what I was saying. My
one knew her, but
I do not think. I do not
figure.
think.
Yeah,
I do not. I'm not claiming that Charlie Kirk's life had any more value than Elizabeth Hortman. I am talking about the reality of the situation, and I'm not. To me, I completely condemn anyone harming a Democrat. Every time the topic of political violence or any type of violence, even if it's not political, comes out, I routinely tell my audience that if you engage in violence against the other side because they're trans, they're gay, they're black, whatever it is that your issue is, you're an idiot and you deserve to be punished. I routinely defend anyone and join with you in saying that political violence of any stripe, any nature is completely vile, disgusting, and it leads to your own self-destruction as opposed to self-harm to the whatever cause you're advocating for, because all you're doing is building sympathy for someone else. So what I routinely speak out against this, and I genuinely believe that it's an evil thing for someone to go out there and kill Elizabeth Hortman, and no less evil than it is to kill Charlie Kirk. And for you to come on here and start saying that I'm implying something other than that because I'm taking note of the fact that Charlie Kirk is a far well-known person, that he's being killed because of his celebrity. That's why he was being killed, because of his celebrity. And that's the point that I'm making. You want to come out here and saying, oh, Joe just said that Charlie Kirk matters and that this Democrat politician doesn't matter. That's not at all what I was saying.
Question. You said he was being killed for his celebrity.
He was.
I'm going to ask you. I thought he was killed.
Impact he's having. For the impact he's having.
But celebrity is one thing. I thought he was killed because he's leading a political movement, much like Martin Luther King. I think there are definite parallels to Martin Luther King,
100%.
And not celebrity. Okay, I just think it's a little different, and I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just saying, and the reason why I keep harping on is it's in scale. Charlie Kirk is a far more well-known figure. Absolutely. However, he was killed for his political opinions and stance. The other individual was killed for their political opinions and stance. So it is apples to apples.
You know what? No. I'm making more apples.
Just to be clear, it was the response. Maybe we should rewind this video. But the response when I asked, they said the specific difference was one was a national figure known by everybody. This was essentially nobody.
Exactly.
And then we started making that distinction. And I made the distinction that I thought that was wrong because
I'll prove it to you.
But go ahead.
I'll prove it to you. Okay, I'll prove it to you. You're going to tell me that the reaction to the assassination of Martin Luther King is anything like the assassination of Elizabeth Hortman? Do you think that for a second? Let's take the political sides out of it. When MLK was murdered, you think anyone was making the same stink about Elizabeth Hortman as when MLK was murdered? And if you're going to make that claim, that's asinine.
Well, can I follow that up to say why there's a distinction there?
Do you not believe people were outraged?
Danny's turn. Danny, let Danny go.
Danny.
She's been
I just
waiting.
want to say that Martin Luther King embodied civil rights. He is the embodiment of us agreeing to get along despite our skin color, us agreeing to dream together, us allowing us to come together. That is what he embodies. That is what Charlie Kirk embodied for freedom of speech and civil dialogue, and saying we don't need to have violence. We don't need to resort to name calling and cancellations and everything else. We can rise above this. We can just agree to disagree. That's okay. You can be wrong and I can think you're wrong, and that is okay. That is something that you cannot compare to the death of a politician who voted a certain way on a bill or who said one thing one time. This is completely different. And that's why you're seeing the international outrage in South Korea, in the UK, elsewhere, people honoring Charlie Kirk because that's what he embodied. God bless the man. God bless the man.
Nate, please answer my question, please. What do you think that the assassination of MLK is in any way relatable to the assassination of Elizabeth Hortman? That's the same thing.
It's Melissa, by the way.
Yeah, it's
sorry, whatever. Melissa.
Yeah, it's Melissa. But I would say yes, they were both killed for their political stances. Yes.
So then why did the public react so differently? Why? How many people attended the funeral of MLK versus those who attended the funeral of Elizabeth Hortman?
So let's say George Floyd. George Floyd,
right?
Below Elizabeth Hortman.
What did he embody?
Right. It was all across the country. What I'm saying, and I just want to be very, very clear, is that she was killed for her political beliefs by a Republican. He was killed for his political beliefs for a Democrat. And this context
No.
of this,
Well,
this.
we're
Hold
gonna
on,
say
let me
left.
finish.
We'll just say
All
leftist
this,
and
yes,
right.
but
I don't want to get
and then one side trying to pretend that this doesn't happen. See, I would say Charlie Kirk is more analogous to maybe Harvey Milk, who was shot and killed in a very similar manner. So I would say that maybe, but again, it all depends. I just want to make it very clear to the audience that any political violence, no matter if you're killing a Republican or a Democrat, is abhorrent. What happened in Minnesota was abhorrent, and what happened with Charlie.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
No qualifications. No qualification. No, I'm not qualifying anything I'm saying.
It's not the same because he could have just as easily been killed by someone who was radical on the right, not because of his political beliefs, but because of what he embodied, because of what he practiced, because of what he represented. And there's a reason why you had people on the left, as soon as he died, going, holy shit. There were professors who were going, holy shit, this is opening a can of whoop-ass worms we're not ready to pay for. We're not ready to deal with. It is absolutely a high potential that this could go violent very quickly.
And there's another element also here, which is there's several other elements. There's several other elements here also, Danny. I apologize. I need to get this up. There's several other elements. Number one is you see so many people on the left making TikTok videos celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. So when people are sitting here saying that, oh, it's the same thing. There's violence here. There's violence there. How many people on the right did you see celebrating? Oh, yay, they got Melissa Hortman. Did you see anyone who was bizarre and insane enough on the right to take that position? Because I dare say,
yes. I actually have tweets, but again. Do we want to really coach the right in these lunatic tweets that you found on Twitter? Because I can show you those tweets of people saying, yeah, she died. Yeah, another Democrat died. Or am I supposed to pretend that didn't happen? Or
I didn't
see
that
because so I just want to make it very clear. Are you saying there's no tweets about Republicans celebrating?
No, what I'm saying.
I want to make sure I get you on camera here. That no Republicans celebrated that death. Because I want to because I know the audience is going to go crazy. I love Joe, and I'm going to fact check him right here. So Joe,
normal doctors.
I'll show it.
This is
hold on, everybody. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in.
I'm making sure.
You're making a bad faith argument. No, you're really making a very bad faith argument.
I'm asking what you are saying. You just said something.
What I am saying is you can't go on the internet. You cannot get on the internet without seeing these videos. You want to tell me you found
it now. Now
what
I'm saying is nobody said on the right. Can you asked me, could I find something on the right? And I said I could, and now you're changing it up. So I understand that you got a recovery issue here now.
Joe, you guys, this is normal. These are normal people who are celebrating. These are our nurses, our doctors, our firemen, our law enforcement officers. There are politicians who are celebrating this. Politicians, Nate. This is not normal. This is not okay. This is not a whataboutism. Sure, I'm sure there were crazies on the right.
Hold on a second. Nate is not saying it's whataboutism. It's way off track.
Hold on. When we're talking about cancellationism too, and we're talking about cancel culture on the right and the left, this matters because what we're talking about is the celebration of political violence by people who might be changing out my heart, by people who might be helping me deliver my son, by people who are okay with saying, yeah, that guy's a prick, so he deserved to die. This is the same issue I had when people said conservatives shouldn't cancel people on the left during COVID, when people on the left, like Jimmy Kimmel, were saying, if you're not vaccinated, you deserve to die. That is a completely different thing than a bunch of radicals on the right,
Danny,
who are
we've
tweeting
shifted.
out, oh yay, I'm so glad that this politician died. That's
Danny, hold up for a
completely
second. Hold up for a second, because nobody is excusing this. And I know because I've talked to Nate ahead of time. All those people, we're not excusing any of the doctors. We're not excusing any of that stuff. That is kind of getting a little bit off track. Nate was saying there's an AB example. Things have spiraled way up. But I can tell you right now that in my heart, Nate is not saying it's okay for a doctor to say that. He is not saying, and as a matter of fact, Nate, go and pull up Hassan, because we have clips for today to talk literally about where is it speech and where is it violence. And Hassan Abi, or whatever you want to call the guy, has been out there spouting a lot of stuff And we literally have brought that clip of him putting together calling for violence, which is in fact definitely not free speech. And I think that there's a lot of emotions on the scale and things like that that have gone way, way, way off track. But
I'm sick.
Confirm, Nate, are you excusing any doctor from saying he deserved to die, or any social media person from celebrating or dancing on TikTok? Were you saying that that's okay and fun to do?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Nate can't find an example on the right.
Those people
is
are horrible, disgusting idiots. Those people who are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death are disgusting. I've said that, and I feel
are they
bad
more disgusting
that
than
they are
you, or
so
less
again.
disgusting than me?
Let me just finish my point. I'm sorry, and I've always said that, and when Charlie Kirk first died, I said that because I don't agree with everything Charlie Kirk says, but I also believe that celebrating is wrong. But I will also say this: it's if you are working for me and you're celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, I am going to fire you. And I understand why people would do that. And the same thing with the Melissa Hartman. If you're celebrating that she's a Democrat and died, I would fire you too. So what I'm saying is that I'm here for consistency. I am not. If the this
then
side
find
does it
me
as
a
good,
doctor
this side
or a
does
nurse
it's
who did the same
all
thing.
over.
Yeah, I have one last question, Nate.
Now I got to look for doctors and nurses, and
Nate.
just so we all understand how the arguments go. First, we start with the broad, right? Find any, and then we go, well, find me a doctor, find me a nurse, find me the second grade teacher from this particular school. It's
Find
like,
me a law enforcement
listen. What
officer,
I'm
a
saying is,
politician. Find
people
them.
who are
They're
people
not
who
there.
are. Well, Mike
Lee.
Mike Lee. There's Mike Lee. So again,
What
but
did Mike Lee
I
say?
want to fact check you in real time, and then it's going to be
What did Mike Lee say?
Fact checking and blah blah blah. blah.
No, tell me. What did he say about her
Sean,
death?
jump in. Hold on. Sean
Go ahead.
gets to jump in.
No, Mike Lee did a tweet. It was very poor taste. It was a very shitty joke.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It was really bad. It was really bad. But
don't do anything. People pretend that they're all good, and there's no Republicans that do anything. And then when we had the evidence that the Republicans do anything, well, you see, it's really we got to make sure. This is ridiculous.
Want to see the evidence.
Everybody
Is what
does
I'm
this
asking
ridiculous
for.
stuff, and I don't know why we can't just say it. But let's move on to Hassan, because every time
before you
get
move on,
challenged
I have
with,
one question.
Here's a tweet from the right. Oh my God, it's there. Then now we got to move. We got now it's Mike Lee. Now we got so I'm just done with this conversation.
Well, I have one last question before we move on, because you labeled two things as being disgusting at the same time. You labeled those who said that this was something to be celebrated as disgusting, and you labeled me as disgusting.
No,
Where do I rank in that?
I said that view.
Where
was
do I rank
disgusting,
in that?
That it seemed like because you said specifically when I'm calling disgusting. Maybe I should clarify.
I think you meant the statement, not Joe.
What I was calling disgusting was the statement that Miss Hartman's killing was in some way not as important as Charlie Kirk's killing, because Charlie Kirk was a more famous figure. You brought up celebrity. Hold on, let me finish. You brought up celebrity, then you brought up reach, and you brought up nationality. And you said that's why it was, and you even essentially used those terms. That's why that was more prominent and that essentially no one really would even care about this woman. And I was objecting to that particular characterization of the argument. I wasn't calling you disgusting. I was saying that characterization that you specifically said, I believe was disgusting.
I think that we all, the tape was there. I don't know what you meant to say.
Okay.
But the tape is what the tape is.
But I've clarified.
And I think
that
you have no answer to the point that I made as far as if you compare Hortman to MLK.
Melissa.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Okay, so but if you compare, and that only proves my point that we can't even remember her first name.
Yes,
that's only proving my point as to how this was not a big deal even to the left when she died. This was not something that they made a big stink about. Now they're making a much bigger stink about her now, because and you could say that's wrong. You could say that because I agree with you. Her life has no less value because of the fact that she's less well known. I think that there are plenty of people out there that no one ever heard of who are far more valuable than any of us who have a lot more public appeal. Okay, that's not any sort of yardstick. I don't give any. I'm not talking about, when I use the term celebrity, the reason I use that term was to talk about the impact it has on the nation as a whole. And his impact was global.
His impact was changing, was something that was significant, that touched people's lives on a day-by-day basis. So when you want to compare that to Melissa Elizabeth Hortman, whomever it is, and you want to say it's the same thing, and you're saying that I'm switching gears here because I'm trying to find ways because of politics, I say back to you, she's not the same as MLK. And you know it. And the reason she's not the same is because the level of impact that she's having during the course, that he was having during the course of his life, and then being snuffed out, is not remotely similar to someone who is relatively a far less impactful individual. And I think you know that. And I think that if you answer that in good faith, you will recognize that is why comparing Charlie Kirk to Hortman is similarly an egregious take as comparing MLK to Hortman. That doesn't mean that Hortman is not potentially in a much higher rung of heaven, but the reality is that as far as how the nation is going to react to it, you cannot make this comparison.
Okay, I'm going to just respectfully disagree. I think she was killed by political violence by some nut. He was killed by political violence by some nut. I do agree with the reach of both parties. Charlie Kirk obviously is more prominent, but I disagree with this coaching that these are not the same. We should treat them as the same. Her murderer should be locked up and get the death penalty. His murderer should be locked up and get the death penalty. And now I do think if you want to change the conversation to, if you want to change the conversation to the impactfulness, well, she is running one of the biggest states in the country. She is a part of the legislature. In that community, she is popular. She may not be nationally, but she is the one who's making who has to vote and does this and actually affects people's lives. With Charlie Kirk is someone like a Rush Limbaugh. I think in their niche, they are both worthy of that respect. And let's not also forget, Trump said if Tim Walz would have asked him to do the flags at half-staff, he would have did it. And the governor and all that, and they're doing all that stuff in Minnesota for her. So yeah, even though her reach is localized, I disagree vehemently with this. They are not similar. I think they are similar in the way they died, and I think it's similar in the way things they happen. I think it's similar. Our response should be similar to that.
And there's a third thing also here, which we haven't even mentioned at all, which is a very significant element to this, which is that, and you can say that this is a gross take also, but it's a new reality. That when you have someone who's not influential at all in any sort of legislature, we've seen political attempts on political figures all the time. That's happened to Scalise, it's happened to Hortman, it's happened on the left side, it's happened on the right side, and it's always terrible. But this is the first time we've seen in 2 generations where someone there was even an attempt of an assassination on someone because of their political speech when they are not a political individual. They do not have any role in governance at all. And the impact of this is far greater than when it's attacking a politician, because the objective here is to silence individuals like you and me from going out in public and trying to address the public and try and convince hearts and minds. It's designed to try and silence us from having the cojones to stand up there and potentially risk our lives trying to argue about things that the nation needs to hear about because they don't want to hear us be compelling. Because if you're compelling, in that case, some crackpot like this lunatic Tyler Robinson or some other of the millions of crackpots out there might decide that they're going to climb up on a roof and try and sniper you. And that's a terrifying thing. And that's a change in the landscape of this culture, which makes it way more significant. And to imply that, well, it's only because MAGA is doing it, or his initial tweet, which was like, I mourn all people who are victims of gun violence, which was just, it's like we have to turn this into your personal issue. This entire thing being politicized like that is what Jimmy Kimmel was trying to do. When Tyler Robinson, what he was trying to do was to basically intimidate anyone. I mean, he certainly had a personal vendetta, again, a personal issue with Charlie Kirk individually, but the ramification is because of potential copycats, because of other people like that this is designed to chill free speech in ways that far outshine anyone who is attacking a politician.
And by the way, Sean, I think got cut off about 8 times in the midst of it. I think he had some points.
I think, Nate, you're correct. What happened to the Hortmans is wrong. And it's just as wrong what happened to Charlie Kirk. But I think it's, even for, it's just the, notoriety of a person. It doesn't mean their death was any less meaningful. But, when people are like, well, what about what happened to the Hortmans? I'm like, you know, it's horrible what happened to them, but they were, you know, okay, yes, in Minnesota they were important, but how many people in Minnesota knew the name of their the Speaker of the House? I mean, like it's just the fact of who the hell was that? It's like, okay, when you learn, oh well, that's awful what happened to him. I mean, that is the, you know, I think that's what Joe may have been trying to get to there, because like,
but all right, so I'll ask you, where does that get you? Even if that's true, where does that get you?
It doesn't get you anywhere. But I do think for people on the left, I mean, they're bringing it up, and I mean, that happened. The story happened and was gone. I mean,
yeah,
I think a lot of people forget about it, or people even noticed, or they just heard crazy guy ran in a house dressed as a cop and murdered people, and that was it. You know, I think for a lot of people, that may as well have been 100 years ago now in the news cycle. So that's what I think for a lot of people. And they're like, you know, if I think for people, like, if it was that big a deal, why was the drum not being beaten so hard for that? Because I do think it was awful and horrible, but I think it's to show, I think it does lend to the idea that people, you know, not that anybody didn't care for them, but a whole hell of a lot of people cared about Charlie Kirk and appreciated Charlie Kirk. That doesn't mean the Hortmans weren't, but it's just the nature of, you know, like some random guy in Cleveland gets hit by a bus today versus the
thing is, we
Speaker of
got
the House
sidetracked.
If
We got
killing-
sidetracked so hard from the initial point, which was the Jimmy Kimmel thing. It's like, I mean, I literally feel like we've spent 20 plus minutes on
kinda where we landed.
a bit, and I do think it was a misunderstanding to a degree. Like I was saying that, you know, earlier, Joe, what you said sounded awkward. I wasn't trying to say that you're meaning anything bad. It just it sounded awkward, and I feel like it just went ballistic. So can we get back to the Jimmy Kimmel thing?
I don't think it sounded awkward, and I think it's actually on point to what we're discussing, which is cancel culture. What are we going to, as free speech advocates, accept as cancel culture, and what are we not going to accept in the culture? Now, this isn't talking about freedom of speech as a legal concept, but as a cultural concept. What Joe is talking about is absolutely spot on, which is you can't play whataboutism when you're talking about the assassination of a political figure and specifically a political official. That's totally different than what's happening here. This is an attack on free speech culture.
I just disagree.
And that's okay. That's okay. I'm just saying that what Joe's point is, I agree with, which is if you were to shoot at a political candidate like Donald Trump, let's say, that's different than shooting at a political candidate like Sarah Palin. And the reason why is because Donald Trump is inciting, right? He's bombastic, he's loudmouthed, and people will say the same shit against him. This is, let's say this occurred before he was president. They would be saying he deserved it.
And by the way, he doesn't have to be a famous. And in this part, he doesn't have to be a famous figure. If you're arguing, if one is arguing that or 5% of the country is claiming that it's justifiable to celebrate his murder. So much so, I don't know if you guys saw this. There's a TV star named Erin Napier who's getting pushback from her executives because this woman, who's a TV star from some, I don't know, home improvement type of thing that has a pretty big following, has over 1 million followers, and that she's getting pushback because she said that the people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death are revolting, and her own audience lashed back at her for taking that position, that they should not be dancing in the streets that Charlie Kirk was murdered. And her executives were cringing about the fact that she was basically arguing back at them and saying that I think that you're a goblin if you're sitting here celebrating this. That's the nature of the discussion that's happening on the left. And the point that I'll make to you is this.
Disagreeing with that, dude.
But the point that I'll make to you is this: these people, and how widespread it is, this acceptance, if not endorsement, of what Tyler Robinson did is so terrible, is because it's not, if you don't have to have the notoriety of Charlie Kirk for them to basically say your death is a meaningful and valid thing that should happen. It could be anyone. It could be any one of us. It could be anyone watching our show who shares values that mirror Charlie Kirk's, that they would say if they were murdered, that's a good thing. That's a blessing to this earth. That is a new day in America, a new terrible
single day for people to come to a realization that they're totally fine with potentially up to half of the country being murdered because of their political ideologies. That's intrinsically, whether they realize it or not, that is what these people who are celebrating his death are saying. And you haven't seen, and that is completely unparalleled by the brutal and vile assassination of Hortman, because she was someone in politics as opposed to someone who was just expressing her opinion, and that makes this completely incomparable altogether, in my opinion.
Well, I do think that that we should really kind of focus on is the fact of the limits, because we would all agree if these people said this thing like cheered Charlie Kirk's death, the government can't come in and arrest them, right? There was the First Amendment. So what we're really talking about is
exactly.
So I like to make the difference. I like to just point out the difference between canceling is private companies firing you for your speech, and then we're talking about censorship, which is the government essentially canceling your speech. So we're not talking about We're not talking about censorship. We're talking about canceling, right? So now in that vein, when you're talking about canceling, it's now becomes a subjective type of thing, right? How do you feel about a particular thing, or how do I feel about it? Like, I like to give the example of the Christian book club or bookstore. They have an employee says Jesus was fake, Jesus wasn't real. I'm assuming they can fire that person because that person doesn't align with the store and could actually hurt sales. So that's what we're talking about, right? That person, even though that person can be canceled for that reason from that bookstore for that speech, and it's totally legal because that person doesn't have a right to that job. Will we all agree with that or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So now these are some examples of tweets of people who have been either fired based on what they've said about Charlie Kirk and the Hortman thing. And I just want to see if we are all in all agreement. Some of them are just obvious, some of them are borderline. But see, would we agree if the person should be fired, or if the person should be or if maybe it may be too much. So in other words, let me take Eric's down. So for instance, here's a tweet from and these are all prominent figures too, which is some of them are kind of shocking. Like, my God, I can't believe they said this. So this is an executive for an NFL team. He's making over, I think, $300,000 a year. And after Charlie Kirk got shot, he put this up, and it's "Protect Your Neck" from the Wu-Tang Clan in reference to Charlie Kirk.
Which is a good song.
Which is a good song. Should he have been fired, or should he have not been fired?
I'm sorry, he's head of the NFL.
He was executive for an NFL team.
He was the front office.
Yeah, fire him. It's gonna look bad for most of, or at least a large portion of consumers.
Now, if I was there, I would fire him. And the reason why, I know people are gonna be like, they just said I'm against cancel culture. But if I own the team and this person put this out, I think this could hurt sales. I think, I would let that go.
Kill sales.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think he slashed sales.
The next one is from another lefty. This is an educator. Looks like old Charlie spoke his fate into existence. Hate begets hate, zero sympathy. This is right after the shooting.
Every
but
teacher,
this is an educator.
No one who's like this should be influencing children.
Yes,
I agree. It's because of people like that I'm homeschooling.
This is a reporter. Part of what keeps America so violent is the insistence that people perform care, empathy, goodness, and absolution for white men who espouse hatred and violence. Again, this is in response to the shooting. This person, but this is not the only one. This person also does the second one. For everyone saying political violence has no place in this country. Remember the two Democrats who were shot in Minnesota. America, shrugged, and
don't fire him. So, don't fire him because they're a reporter.
Person be fired.
No, he's not.
I want to know what their political leanings are every time I read a story.
This person is a left wing, and this person.
No, they're gone. I mean, I don't need that person because they're not objective. Like that's not their. Sorry, too late.
What about thoughts and prayers to his children? But in my opinion, America became greater today.
Yeah,
I said it.
Yeah,
I mean, if I own a business, you're gone. I don't need that. At potentially criminal industries, we don't condone murder.
This
Here's
is
the Mike
Destiny
Lee.
pointing one of Matt Lee's, because he has a couple of them. Mike
Mike
Lee's,
Lee.
yes. Nightmare on
Yeah.
Wall Street after the
Yeah.
guy was arrested for killing the two
Yeah.
Democrats.
Of all the things of all the things Mike Lee said, this was
It's a
probably
light
like
one.
the most.
Yeah.
This ain't that bad.
But
This ain't that bad. I want to see what he said, because this is in reference to him working for Walt, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's
I
saying
believe
that
so,
Walt has a problem in his state, I think is what he
Right.
was saying more.
Right. So
But it is
for me-
clunkily worded to where it's like, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
it's off. It's bad taste. It's bad taste, but it's clearly a jab made at Waltz, not made at the Hortons.
This is somebody who was not fired, but this person said the event was canceled because loony Democrat murdered a Democrat. So this is again, this person was not fired, and this is another one.
That one wasn't
is
as
not
much
cool.
as.
Yeah,
this one's not good, but this isn't saying like they got what they deserved. I have no
Right.
sympathy for those people.
Yes.
That that's the difference. Like when you get to the point of F them, lol, dab, that's when it becomes a little more like that's what we're seeing with Charlie Kirk. That's what we're seeing at this point.
Because you guys are saying like this one, the reporter shouldn't have been fired because again, she didn't do, but this one is
I think
in the
the reporter
same
should have been
vein.
fired.
Hold on.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
again, here he's also attacking Keith. I'm guessing Keith Oberman. He's
I
not
thought Keith-
attacking the
I thought he
victim
meant Keith Ellison.
or making
the
fun of. Oh yeah, but
DHE
either
of
way, he's
Minnesota.
attacking some other person. That's yeah.
And this is another one, but this one I think is more mockery. This is saying that all the things that Hartman was for, parents' rights to mutilate their children, and she will be missed with the whole hand sign again.
See, and I think that's cancelable. I do. I think
You would
they
fire
would-
this person.
Yeah, I would. I
What
would.
about you, Sean?
No, I mean this isn't.
She will be missed. The whole happy.
I mean
Happy. She's
that,
gone.
I'm not
That was-
okay
that
with
was-
that's the thing I
sarcasm.
don't
It's a
like.
mockery.
That's
I
what you
don't
said,
like
Sean.
that there. Yeah, I don't.
It's gross.
It is gross. I don't. I mean, hold on. Let me read the new greed scam. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is just. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I think so. I think I'd probably get rid of this guy.
You're attacking Horton. She just died. Come on.
Like, was this like right after it too?
This was right after the death.
Okay, yeah.
I don't
probably
need
wouldn't mind
people
letting that guy
pissing
go.
on my grave when I die. No, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't
I had
want
to
you
read that one a
work
couple
for
of times all the way through.
And I think when we're talking about this, I think it's very important to make that distinction, because all of us when we're talking about canceling, we're not talking about the government. Now, for instance, if the government was to say we're firing these people because of what they said, now we got a whole different bowl of wax. But and for cancel culture, but now, what do you guys say to the argument that it's so subjective? When cancel culture was the left was doing it, they were doing it for things like, let's say, misgendering someone. Matter of fact, I always tell this story. I have a video for 8 million views. I misgendered the person in the video, and they demonetized it. So for the first 3 million views, it was demonetized. But then after it started blowing up, it got remonetized. So that video with all those views didn't really make me as much money. So you are being canceled just for misgendering people. Are you guys concerned with the subjective nature of it? Because Republicans are in power today, but there will be Democrats in the future.
Not
Does that
really,
bring you any
because we've
pause?
already been through this. You know how many people lost their jobs saying, "I don't think boys should change in a locker room with my daughter." I mean, we've already been through
Riley
this, and now
Gaines.
it's like we've just we're Patton. We read Rommel's playbook. We know them better than they do, and the right has been very effective in the past week at mobilizing and making the left suffer. So, no, oh my God, it's like you showed us how to do this. You laid the groundwork. We happen to be
table.
We're better at
We're just
it
here
than
to
you
eat.
are. Sorry. Yeah. And also it happens to help that what you guys are doing right now, most of America is not cool with like chuckling about murder. You know, that like
that's the part where I'm
That's the
actually
part.
finding this to be encouraging. I mean, obviously the death is horrible, but this is the first time I've seen a lot of people suffer consequences for some really inflammatory language. And you could tell by the reactions that they're shocked. They're like, wait, what? I can't believe it. I lost my job. And because they've been operating, I feel, in an echo chamber of so much tolerance for anything they say, not only tolerance, but celebration, that it's actually shocking people. And Joe, you're in Jersey, right? There's that case of the nurse and the doctor where somebody said, oh my, Charlie Kirk just got shot and killed. And she goes, oh my God, I love him. And the doctor made comments like, oh, he deserved it, whatever, in front of multiple people, including a patient. What happened? Well, the nurse was suspended, who called him out saying, how can you say that when you're a doctor? How can you be okay with somebody dying? Yeah. Well, now it has flipped around where the doctor has resigned. The nurse has been reinstated. Of course, they're saying, no, she was never, she was never lost a penny, anything else, because there's a lawsuit. But I do find it good that you're actually seeing some consequences. I think the Jimmy Kimmel thing, though, is almost a distraction, because I think ABC and Disney wanted to get rid of him anyway. And this is just nothing more than a pretense, and they can hold up their credibility and say, oh no, we were just facing so much pressure from those bad conservatives. We're really good libtard, and they can kind of play both ends. Go ahead, Tanny. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, I think the difference, Nate, is what is being celebrated. For me, that matters. In your case, I don't think you should have been demonetized for misgendering someone. You're not calling on murdering people. You're not calling for violence for trans people, right? That's different. You're not celebrating violence against trans people. You're not saying, yes, we should absolutely harm these people physically. There is a difference.
Definitely.
If I say abhorrent shit at my job, let's say somebody's pissed off because I say what's interpreted as a racist remark. Okay. And I say it as a joke, but they're like, you know what? That was super racist. Not okay. Should I be talked to by my boss? Yes, because it creates, some despondency between me and my coworkers, right? It can cause tension. So, hey, you probably should keep it down, right? But should I be fired for it? No, I don't think so. Now, if though I am a doctor and I am operating on patients and I make racist jokes, that's a totally different story. Content and context matters when it comes to cancel culture. It's not as simple as, oh, well, I'm opposed to all cancel culture, or I'm in favor of all cancel culture. There's some cancel culture that I'm very much in favor of. So if you're celebrating violence and murder, I don't care if you're on the right or on the left, you should be canceled. You should lose your job. I don't want you operating on people. I don't want you around people. Now, if you're a contractor, do I think you should lose your job because you celebrated? No, I really don't care. Okay. You're Joe Blow on the street. You're not going to cause any issue. I don't really care. But if you're a doctor and you're saying people who don't get the COVID vaccine shouldn't be treated, now that's an opinion that changes the way in which I have faith and trust in you as a fellow citizen and as a potential patient. So that's the difference, is when we apply cancel culture, you should do it strategically. You should do it, and it should be centered on certain things that we as a society will not accept, which very quickly transitions to behavior that breaks down our trust in one another. I don't think racist comments online should be tolerated. I'm going to be honest.
It's very simple. It's a very simple rule. It's a very simple rule. It's a very simple rule. If the person is in a position where they are in the service industry and the nature of their individual services are relevant to their job, then in that case, they should be fired. So that's how you contrast someone who's a teacher or a nurse or a doctor to a checkout woman who no one cares who the checkout person is. So if the checkout person is someone who's racist and vile, I do not think that person should be fired. That's the distinction.
Represents a store also, and they're losing business.
Unless the second element is exactly what Eric is getting at, that if they are part of being the face of the company, so now their voice now ends up having an impact on the overall success of the industry, the enterprise. In that case, I think that's another reason for it to be fireable, because you're basically turning the public against you. Those are the two broad categories which justify firing for someone being a vile individual, and whether they're vile, whether they're attacking the left or the right.
You know who is not vile, though? You know who are really good people? super chatters. And there's a bunch of super chats sitting here, and I feel terrible because we got really sidetracked. I don't even know if some of them have been pulled up or not, but I definitely want to go through them. And people are being very generous, and I deeply appreciate it. Phantom Lord here. I think this got pulled up by me. It's $10. In the Navy, if I had a romantic relationship with a junior sailor, I could face a captain's mast or court-martial. Why don't elected officials get held to the same standard?
I agree.
That's it's a borderline depending on what it is. Like if it's somebody in employ or whatever, then yeah, absolutely. When you have any kind of hierarchy, they should be held to that standard. I agree with you on that. That's the Fani Willis, Nathan Wade situation. Yeah, that's a problem when you're hiring your lover and all of that stuff. Obscure crime. Because we love Eric, but this is to show our appreciation of Sean being here. He is my favorite after Eric, of course. Nate is a close third. Probably not anymore. A lot of people are very annoyed with Nate and me at the moment. But, so that could have changed. That was early in the show. So hopefully they still enjoy us. John Mansell, off topic. Love y'all. Will anybody do a legal breakdown of the legal justification of Trump negotiating for Intel shares? What part of government actually owns it? I will just tell you, I am very uncomfortable with Intel giving up 10% of ownership, whether it's voting stakes or not, to the U.S. government. That feels like socialism to me. I don't like when my government and my industry get intertwined, but you guys might have a different opinion. You might be cool with U.S. owning chunks of Intel.
I don't like it either, but we already do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it part of it. I think part of this is also to ensure that because the government's involved, whatever Intel's doing, kind of limits what they can do, limits, how to limit issues with China coming forward. They're not
AMD, you have Nvidia.
Yeah.
So are we going to get into there now? Because I mean, Nvidia has more important chips than Intel, and oh well, shit, we need to invest. It just it doesn't smell right to me.
It does, but I mean, I don't know. I think this is one of the few times where it's like it does make some sense here. It does make some sense.
All right, Justina with 20 pounds. Thank you. Kimmel gets booted. The bosses use excuse of comments about Charlie. What if this is deliberate? Use controversial reason. Let's get people outraged when actually they get rid of them based on shocking ratings. Yeah, I mean that's what I think a lot of us feel was happening when, I mean, we knew that they were all in trouble. We just thought, we actually thought that Jimmy might have been first, but it turned out to be Colbert who was first. But whatever.
Yeah, they're all hemorrhaging. And that said, though, there's been a massive issue with Jimmy Kimmel and ABC for months and months and months, if not over a year at this point. So was this Jimmy Kimmel trying to speed run and force them to get rid of him, to let him out of his contract? Was it ABC trying to save money? I think it's probably a couple of things all at once. And is Jimmy Kimmel just an unsavory and, horrible human being at times? It sounds like, it's a little bit of a column A, column B, and column C.
But he's not fired though, right? He's just suspended.
For right now, yeah. But I'm sure that he'll give him a little bit of a payout and tell him to hit the bricks. But it sounds like Jimmy Kimmel wanted to get out of his contract with ABC
there was some talk on that. I mean, what I can't believe is the dude's been there for over 20 years.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, that time really adds up. And somebody else pointed out the irony that Jimmy Kimmel, not directly, but kind of replaced Bill Maher, who got canceled with Politically Incorrect.
Except Bill Maher's a lot more entertaining.
Well, and talented.
I can listen to Bill Maher.
I think he's funny.
Okay, Joe, I'll look for that. Music and fiction. Did you all notice that the Democrats are now submitting anti-hate speech bill in the House and Senate? Bondi lit a fire under their butts.
Ooh, gross.
That doesn't make sense to us. Like,
Yeah, it's all like what I mean. This is all performative. It's like now they're And I see some of these people on Twitter. It's like, oh well, we're defending the Second Amendment. I'm like, where have you been the entire time? Like, it's great you came out now, but where you been?
Oh yeah.
Let the bill get to the Supreme Court. Do it.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happen. Do it. Sure.
Yeah. Dustin Russell, Danny. Is your opinion that the university in Utah has a lot of explaining to do, even more so than Kirk's personal security as it relates to the events leading up to his assassination?
I think there's potential civil liability there. I don't know about criminal, but definitely civil. And I think that there might be claims from TP USA and Erica Kirk. So we'll see what happens. Usually they sign waivers, a bunch of paperwork when you bring on these speakers that say, hey, by the way, if something, God forbid, happens like this, then, the university won't be held liable. However, if it's really likely and the university only provided 8 officers and they had 23 at their disposal, then yeah, I think so. And I also think it matters where the university allowed them to set up. So there are large indoor speaking areas right next to the Hall of the Flags, right next to where he spoke. The state convention, Republican convention, has been held there a few times. And this is not the first time. I went to see, what is her name? She also worked for TP USA. I really was not impressed by her, and I'm glad that people are finally seeing her. Candace Owens, thank you.
Isn't she saying the Jews are the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed?
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
That's what they're saying. They're saying it's a Jews' fault, right?
Yes.
I disavow Candace Owens. I disavow her. I disavowed her from the beginning.
Joe, what do
I have
you
not
know?
been impressed.
Joe, what do you know?
But when she came to speak, I saw her speak. I came to see her speak, and they had security there, and there was like 2 security guards, and they let the protesters basically come all the way up to the door as we were exiting. So they kept them a safe distance away before the event, and then right after the event, they let them come straight to the door. And it looks like they did the same damn thing again, where as soon as the event started, they basically said, yeah, you can hang out wherever you want and protest on the upper levels. So I do think I have questions about what happened internally in deciding where he was going to speak.
All right. Mary Coppola. Let's see. She may have been popular in Minnesota, which the state should recognize. Charlie was known worldwide, not just Arizona. Okay, we're not going to keep kicking that one around. Darko Lushka. I don't even know how to say that. So, wasn't the killer of those state reps described specifically as an equal opportunity hater across sides? If so, Kurt seems to equate hatred across parties on a single issue to be the same as categorical hatred of a party. I don't quite understand all that.
I think he's saying that the guy was he hated
crazy,
everybody.
He hated everybody.
Yeah, and
but it's
he was a right wing nutter more than anything.
Yeah, if you just the evidence is just overwhelming.
And the one thing people keep going back to is like, well, Governor Walz put him on something. The governors appoint people to all kinds of bipartisan boards.
Yeah,
they appoint people.
Well, he reappointed him. Apparently, he was already.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon either. There are even in Ohio, there are boards and things the governor appoints Democrats to because that's what you do.
But either way, we kick that one around.
Yeah.
Tom Forsyth. Kirk was subject to a national campaign of vilification, which resulted in his death. Hortman wasn't. That's a difference. I mean, that's true. He was subject to that. I agree. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Crowder has come out and talked about this. I don't know if you saw. He was with Piers Morgan, and he pointed out that he feels guilty that he did not call Charlie Kirk and say, yes, I was doing the campus thing before you were, but I had to quit because it was so dangerous that I really couldn't continue doing it. And he said that he should have called Kirk, which I think is, a lot of people are pushing back saying, oh, Stephen Crowder's making it about him. I'm like,
no, he's not.
He's saying I should have warned him.
I should have warned him.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it sounds. I can see that side, but I agree with you. He's just trying to say that.
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say this to make it very clear, the Democrats have essentially for the past 3 or 4 years have had license to call for the murders of Republicans.
Sure.
For instance, Hassan Piker, Destiny, they've been saying these things for the past couple of years and have had no consequences. Like we even had the tape of all of the stuff Hassan was calling him. And he called for the killing of the Florida senator when he got
Rick
suspended
Scott
for like a couple of days. Yeah,
named him
Called-
specifically.
named him and said he should be killed. So I just want to make it very clear that I do understand the frustration because it is not equal. The left, because these left-wing platforms have allowed them to go overboard and say this stuff. And now that somebody's done it, it's like the natural reaction to this. And I understand the right wing, if you say anything even close to violence, you will be thrown off all platforms, right? Donald Trump was president. They threw him off every single platform. So in that vein, I want to make it very clear. The left has made this mess of itself. So I'm not defending them. They've made this mess. And now I think they have to lay in it. And all these people getting fired and stuff for this over-the-top speech should have been done when they were doing it to Republicans for the past 3 or 4 years.
One thing, though, and I have a question for all of you lawyers. In my opinion, calling for specific harm to an individual is not even in free speech land. That actually, you could be arrested, in my opinion, because that's a call to action. It's not even at the whole, kill all the blank or whatever. It is saying specifically, I want this person attacked. Does that not rise to a level of criminality potentially? Go ahead and play it.
Let's just hear it.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there. Okay. You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up.
By the way, pause for a second. Am I going to get demonetized for this, by the way?
No, because we're late. We're late. If it was earlier, you would.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours. But I honestly, I'm not gonna sit here and try to defend Hassan. But he's saying on stage, I think he means it in the debate. You need to beat the brakes off these people.
Oh, no. He keeps going. That's just a warm up.
I was going to say, when he talks about, bathing the blood of all the capitalists and,
Slice them up.
no.
Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this? You cannot have a bigger fucking layup. You could not have had a bigger fucking layup than a horrible candidate like Herschel Walker. Sure, he was prepared very well.
Let me
move forward. This is from Twitter.
Yeah.
And 3, it's
This
like
is
all
Mike
here.
from PA.
Now this guy's down.
This
He's
is
dead.
Destiny.
These guys are like
11, 12.
This is Destiny.
and 3, it's like all here. Now this guy's down. He's dead. These guys are like
and fatally wounded.
They're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh shit. Well, okay. Well, we brought the
It's
white.
called shock, you fucking idiots. It's called shock. Anything that happens, I mean, like,
This is a
holy
little
shit, guys. If you live
convoluted, Nate.
in
Is there
Florida,
anything
I
else?
have an opportunity for you.
Yeah.
If you want to earn 100.
Piker, the big political commentator, just got banned on Twitch.
Shilly DeFranco.
Maybe because of this moment on a stream late last week.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid, just in fraud alone.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay? The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he, to this day, is still also known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history.
And all of that.
So that's some clips of Hassan.
Yes.
But he said worse. He said worse. I just
He said 100%
worse. Yes, but I think understanding that, then yes, and don't forget this has been for like the past 3-4 years. This is because he's been allowed to say that and stay monetized on that platform because the head of the platform loves him. So that's why. So it's not equal playing ground, and so I do understand why now people are like, this is good because it feels like it's been a long time coming. So I would agree with that if that makes sense.
All right. Justin Wright. I am seeing normies celebrating Charlie's event at the truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that. Are they celebrating the bad thing or the good? Anyway, I don't
I'm
know.
assuming a truck stop, probably the good.
John
Oh, I
H.
would hope so.
2004. Here we go. The difference between Hortman and Kirk was influence, not fame or politics. Kirk died because he was influencing change. I think everybody agrees with that he died for a movement. That's why I brought up MLK. I think there's parallels. Miriam, in a lighter note, Danny looks beautiful with her little blessing in arms. I agree.
Thank you. I am blessed. I am super blessed. I feel bad for subjecting him to my loud voice. He doesn't like that. So I apologize. I subjected the entire audience in our panel to my loud voice, and I apologize.
By the way, we are all friends, folks, in the chat who are going nuts. We're gonna leave. We're still friends, and we're still gonna hang out afterwards. It's not. That's why we keep coming back. Mike Schaefer, I genuinely want to know what was so offensive. We covered it.
You're talking about what Kimmel said, yeah, but
Darkalush, I don't know how to say your name, dude. It's interesting. The left's mask slipped, and it showed that reconciliation is no longer possible with many. I hope that national minds would compromise. I was wrong. Lines are drawn, and it's subjugate or be subjugated. And Mark Halperin actually talked about that in a tweet I thought was interesting. Last Friday, he said, I was naive to think that it was only a few people. It is much more widespread than I realized. And he's definitely not a right-wing kind of guy. Recovery of judgment regarding the case. Okay, that's side stuff, I think. Hold on. We've got, I have such sights to show you. First time I saw Candace was on an early Rubin report. Dave asked her, what's your evidence? She countered, I don't need evidence. I just know.
Yeah.
God, if you ever want to get your head to explode, watch Candace Owens and Blair White on with Rubin back in the day. I mean,
that's the minute I decided I hated Candace Owens. Well, like I wasn't just not impressed. I actually hated her. I was like, you know what? F you, bitch. You don't represent our side. I'm not into this. Her
trial is heating up too with the Macrons. The Macrons are offering they say they're coming in with scientific and photographic evidence, and I'm like, is the scientific evidence mean there's a demonstration or what?
But didn't she say she was going to trial? She said she did not want to dismiss the case.
She's trying to get it
dismissed. Right?
Yeah.
She's changed. So, all right, well, folks, it has been a very, very energetic episode this time, and if you like heated talks and everything else, please consider hitting the subscribe. But to wrap things up, here we go. John Munsell, only 52 likes. Come on, guys.
Hit that like, guys.
Please consider that. Sean, what do you have coming up?
Coming up, we are going to be watching. I think I might be doing it tonight. Is actually the.
It has we have 355 likes, by the way.
Oh, we do now.
Yeah.
No, you gotta. If you don't refresh, I guess it happens.
Well, still, let's prompt them. It's still that's still
30%.
Right. Yeah, come on.
I'm going to be going over tonight the hearing where the Michigan false electors case got dismissed up in Michigan. There was a hearing, and it was the judge does Zoom, so it's up there. We're going to go through it, and it's interesting because it's the case in Nevada disappeared. The case in Georgia is now dead. All these cases, all this stuff got filed, and it's all quietly going away. And it's interesting how it just goes away. And it's like it was just meant to be a placeholder. It was just meant to distract for a while. And now it's all gone. It's kind of funny how that works.
I think this is for Danny.
Yes.
Lafrodite is not only goddess of law and dinosaurs. She is our goddess of super moms. Congrats.
Yeah, for those who don't know, collecting rocks and fossils is my thing. That's my my little hobby.
Cool.
I like to go dig up dinosaurs on the weekends.
They passed the bill to honor Charlie Kirk. Hopefully it was unanimous. I know it was unanimous, I believe, in the Senate. So
Probably have like the Elon or Mars who would vote against it or something.
I would hope it's.
It should be unanimous.
Losing their goddamn mind these days.
But I
isn't
guess
she?
is that something the House really needs to be passing in that regard in the Senate?
Well, on putting something like that out, saying that we as a unanimous body abhor any political violence to celebrate somebody's moving forward, I think is good for the nation.
Yeah, I think it's good.
It's
Yeah,
good, but I guess I'm like,
they could be doing
It's
better
a
stuff with their
statement.
time.
That's the point of it. Nate, what's going on?
As you guys know, I do my videos, and I do want to make a very clear distinction about some stuff that was said earlier. At no instance or in any way would I ever call Joe himself disgusting or immoral or anything like that. Joe is extremely. It's probably one of the best people I personally know. So if any of what I said earlier gave anybody the impression I was saying that specifically about Joe the person or the character, that is just not accurate, and it's my fault for even putting it out there in a way where someone could be confused. I'm taking full responsibility for that. And I want to just make sure Joe is here when I apologize to him, because he seemed to have taken it that way when I was saying the point was disgusting. So if that's the case, I am extremely sorry. And I'm extremely embarrassed of myself that it was even considered that I was saying that specifically about Joe. And I hope Joe accepts my apology. I am really sorry.
I wholly accept your apology. Thank you.
All right, and I appreciate that, and hopefully, I'm putting out some more content, but at no point do I need to, things get heated, but these are some of the greatest people I know, and I at no point do I ever want to seemingly disrespect them, making a misinformed or a badly worded point. So with that, I apologize to the audience, but more importantly, I apologize to Joe because he was on the wrong side of it. So sorry about that.
All good.
Danny, what do you have coming up?
So I took some time to process what happened to Charlie Kirk before I said anything. And also, I've been on maternity leave. But I am back. This bitch is back. I'm going to be having a show tonight at 7:30 p.m. I'm going to discuss some of the legal aspects, what steps are next. I discussed it in my last show, but I'd like to do so in a little more detail tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. Can we hold on? And yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. And then I have a members only stream where we're going to talk about my birth experience, because I don't want to subject everyone to that, just people who are interested. And yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. Come and check us out. And I also want to talk about the Ukrainian case, which is another one that I've missed since being off duty. So I'm excited to discuss. And yeah, if anyone's interested to see my baby, you don't get to. I'm sorry. Especially after what happened to Charlie Kirk. He was wise to keep his kids private. I don't know if I'll monetize my baby later. Maybe me and my husband change our mind, but right now, no way in hell. So
I have a deep appreciation for a lot of creators who have talked about that with their children or whatever, and they're saying, we're waiting till they're old enough to determine, do they want to be on camera or do they not want to be on camera?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of,
yeah,
it's kind of good. It's kind of like the whole trans thing. It's like, let them be an adult and then they can determine what they want to do. Don't force anything on them.
Yeah.
So I deeply appreciate that.
But I will say any money that is earned as a result of my condition that has since resolved, all of that money goes to him. So all of it goes to his savings accounts. None of you guys have to worry about me being one of those influencer mommies. All the money goes to my baby, not for caring for my baby, but to him as an individual. He can do with his money what he wants when he's an adult.
But by the way, you bring up the influencer mommies. That was another problem that was in Utah, wasn't it? There that those two psycho females,
Ruby Frankie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a
Yes.
lot of problems here. And it's not just here. I used to sing in Branson, and this is a huge problem with entertainer kids too. Basically, the families make them into little performance slaves. They go out and dance and sing and perform, and then they
Like
come
Show
back. And they
Jackson.
get nothing. Yeah, and all of Hollywood. But I don't have a personal experience with Hollywood. Sorry, buddy.
Wait,
So-
what? Remember Macaulay Culkin? Or
Well,
Yep.
did
he
just
passed away.
Wait, did he just die?
Yeah, he's dead.
Speaking
What?
of children performers. Oh my God.
He's not that old. What? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll be catching up on the news in a minute. Joe,
Holy.
what do you have
In the
coming up?
chats, guys, do one in the chats for him.
What you all witnessed between me and Nate specifically was speech and anger rather than speech and hate. And speech and anger is a good thing. And unfortunately, what we're seeing manifesting from people celebrating his death is people who are engaging in speech and hate. And that is always ugly. And that's a very big distinction. I give a lot of credit to Nate for stepping forward in front of the same audience and being able to do that turn and apologize to me, because that is a very, very difficult thing to do. That's something that's reflective of his incredible moral character. And people should appreciate and respect that deeply. The final thing that I'll say is the funeral for Charlie Kirk is supposed to be at 11 p.m. on 11 a.m. Sunday Eastern time. I believe that's 2 p.m. local time where the funeral is being held. I anticipate, in fact, not just anticipate, I will be live streaming the funeral. And I don't know how many hours it's supposed to go for, but I just want to point out that I think that through the tragedy of his death, his martyrdom on behalf of free speech, that Charlie Kirk changed. The nature of how we look at and view Charlie Kirk and his legacy changed from someone who was one of the most important voices in politics to someone whose legacy is cemented as being a civil rights icon, civil rights First Amendment, civil rights Second Amendment, standing up for basic freedoms and constitutional values in a way that rivals Martin Luther King. And I think that his funeral, while it's going to be a difficult thing to watch, I think that you're likely to look back historically as something that you at least wanted to take a moment and appreciate the significance of the man and his voice and the impact that he's had on the world, both during his life and through his death. So that will be on my channel, Good Lawgic. Excuse me. Then it starts at 2 p.m. Eastern. I expect it to run for several hours. There will likely be speeches from some of the biggest, most influential politicians in the country, as well as similarly influential voices. And I felt like it's something that I probably would not have streamed, but for the fact that I think that during a time of grief and trying to deal with this, I think that people will likely want to be around others who are feeling similarly pained by the moment. So I invite you to join me on Sunday afternoon. As I said, it's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern. It says when it's supposed to start. I assume it's going to be live streamed. If not, I'm going to be very disappointed. But I assume it'll be live streamed and that we'll be able to restream it. And if so, I certainly plan on restreaming it so that if you feel like you need a place to find other people who are likely similarly venting or similarly frustrated or pained, that's really the more appropriate word. In that case, that you'll hopefully find that through my voice and more importantly, those in my chat. So that's gonna be on Sunday.
All right. And to wrap things up, it appears that Macaulay Culkin is okay. Can find no news saying anything like that. So I don't know where that came from.
Also, I heard
but
he was
he's all right.
Also.
Happy to say
This is like Nelson Mandela all over again.
Yeah.
Like
all right. So everybody have a wonderful time, and we'll see you the next episode.